GTN Radio. Hear the difference.
Now the news. I'm Shane Bigham. Official data shows that China's foreign trade expanded 6.3% in the first 5 months of the year. The country's exports rose 6.1%, while imports climbed 6.4%. From January to May, China's foreign trade in goods stood at 17.5 trillion yuan, around 2.4 trillion US dollars. More than 13 million students across China are sitting the Gaokao that begins on Friday. It marks a record high since the college entrance exams resumed in 1977. Authorities on all levels nationwide are taking steps to ensure fairness. That includes halting construction near test sites in order to reduce noise. The Gaokao is considered the largest and one of the toughest exams of its kind in the world. United Nations General Assembly has elected former Cameroonian Prime Minister Philemon Young as president of the 79th UNGA session. Young called for members to act together to promote peace despite their differences.
I am convinced that through dialogue, through consensus, talking together, looking into the future all together, we can solve problems.
Young will succeed Dennis Francis when the next session opens on September 10th in New York. Meanwhile, the UNGA has elected Denmark, Greece, Pakistan, Panama, and Somalia as non-permanent members of the UN Security Council. The two-year term will begin on January the 1st. South Africa's governing African National Congress is discussing the party's options for a coalition government. The ANC failed to secure a parliamentary majority in the general election. It's in talks with several parties, including the main opposition Democratic Alliance. Yolisa Njamala has more.
Members of the ANC's NEC gathered for a meeting to discuss options for the formation of a new government. It comes a day after the party's smaller National Working Committee announced that the best option is to consider forming a government of national unity. The committee oversees the day-to-day running of the party. Critics of the DA accuse it of trying to protect the economic privileges of the country's white minority. A small group of ANC members protested outside the NEC meeting venue against a possible ANC-DA coalition. Critics add that the media has been pushing a narrative suggesting that going with the DA would be a better option for stabilizing the markets.
NATO says it has no plans to deploy forces to Ukraine. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg made the remarks during his two-day visit to Finland. Stoltenberg said that they're focusing on how they can establish a stronger framework for their support for Ukraine. Finnish President Alexander Stubb also said that Finland has no plans to send troops to Ukraine. Boeing Starliner spacecraft is docked with the International Space Station about 27 hours after liftoff in Florida. NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams will spend about a week in the orbital laboratory. Starliner's first crewed mission aims to test the spacecraft and its subsystems. And it carries about 345 kilograms of cargo. China's Chang'e 6 lunar mission successfully transferred samples from the far side of the moon to the returner. The ascender docked with the orbiter returner after several adjustments. Probes orbiting the moon after it scooped up samples near the lunar South Pole. Zhang Yibing has more.
This is the second time a Chinese spacecraft has successfully rendezvoused and docked in lunar orbit. The ascender lifted off from the far side of the moon on Tuesday, entering lunar orbit. After 4 orbital adjustments, it reached a position some 50 kilometers in front of the combination. The combination gradually approached and docked with the senders through short-range auto-control. Based on the plan, the returner will separate from the orbiter. It will conduct a series of complicated maneuvers to return to the preset landing site in North China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous region in late June.
The Boston Celtics powered past the Dallas Mavericks 107-89 to take a 1-0 lead in the NBA Finals. Jaylen Brown scored 22 points and Kristaps Porzingis added 20. Luka Doncic led Dallas with 30. Game 2 of the best-of-7 is on Monday morning, Beijing time. China's drawn with Thailand 1-1 in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier in Shenyang. Bahram Abdueli scored a late equalizer in his international debut on Thursday. China is scheduled to play South Korea next week in the last round of the Asian qualifier's second stage. China needs to get at least 1 point in South Korea to qualify for the final stage. And that's the news. I'm Shane Bigham.